Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Last of Millennials We Probably Right podcast. I'm your host, Farrelly Speaks.
And I'm Kendra Rochelle.
And I'm Kelsey.
And today we're going to be talking about things you need to know as Black millennials and your finances. And so today we have a special guest with us who's going to share his expertise on finances. So Kendra, take it away.
All right, guys. So last time we left off on Black tax. And at the conclusion of that episode, we were more so talking about what is the solution and how do we propel ourselves and the next generation into financial success. So today we're bringing in Milton with was it Money Milton Talks? And he's going to talk to us about his 5 core strategies for how do we obtain financial success? So, we talked about what happens when you have the Black tax on you, where you have to bring your family forward. So, Milton, I would like to introduce you first to our family. This is Milton McLaughlin, and he is, for me, the financial advisor of our family. He has helped me in so many ways, and I felt like this information would be critical to the millennials in any generation, really, because like I always say, you don't know what you don't know, and once you know, you have the responsibility to do what you need to do moving forward. So Milton, tell us what you have for us today.
Oh, thanks for that welcome. I just want to be able to kind of, as you said, walk through 5 steps in which I think could get you to a place in which you could have some financial success. The one I'm going to focus on the most is what I think the first step should be is budgeting. So just kind of walking through each of those steps so I can kind of give you an idea of what it looks like to truly have some financial success.
Okay, so can you turn your volume? The first thing that I think of is before we even get to that space, I think it's understanding how critical it is to budget and where we stand. All right, guys. So I'm so excited to introduce Milton of Milton Money Talks. He is personally the financial advisor of our family and has helped me tremendously throughout the years in obtaining financial success and financial literacy. And so we're going to talk about his 5 core foundations of where to start, where to begin, and how to get there. So Milton, introduce yourself and tell the people what you do and what you hope to introduce to us today.
So my name is Milton McLaughlin, and what I love to do is everything around personal finance. And what I've came up with through mistakes and through successes that I personally had, I've came up with 5 steps. Let me take my hands off. Okay, I come up with 5 steps that I know would be powerful in your life if you just adopt. And it really works toward increasing our net worth, which we really should do. And I'm really excited about this session.
Okay, great. So I know that your 5 cores are budgeting, credit, real estate investments, and passive income, according to you in that order. So I think it's really important and critical that as Black millennials and just Black people, we understand where we are, so we understand how pivotal it is to make sure that we put these things into place so that we can move forward and advance. So how do we advance as Black people? And first, where do we even stand statistically amongst our peers of different nationalities?
So that's great. So one of the things that concern me is net worth. And if you look, and some of the statistics are a little different, right? But if you look at the Black people as a whole, our net worth is somewhere around 17 to 24,000.
Wow.
Versus Hispanics, 36,000 versus whites, 188,000. So we're at the bottom in terms of building net worth. And so when you think about that number, right, 24,000, what could that possibly be? That's 24,000. You definitely can't get a house for 25,000. So I'm thinking it's a car. maybe jewelry, like, I don't know, Jordans. I don't know. I don't know what can equal 24,000, but it definitely is not anything major that can bring back significant income.
Okay. So then where do we start knowing what you know? Where should we begin as Black people who probably didn't have anyone in the family to rely on to say, this is what you should be doing, this is the roadmap, this is how you become successful?
So
I just had a quick question, Milton, before we dive into that. So when you're starting, for those who are unaware, because this is now a conversation a crucial conversation that we have to have that has not been had before amongst some Black people, to understand, we hear the term net worth, but some people don't know exactly how it works. So why is net worth important? What is it comprised of? Like, what is the equation? How does one calculate their net worth? And then why is that important? And how do we start the foundation to getting to your 5 points?
Okay, so right. So think about net worth is anything that I have that if I sell it, what's the value? And so when you start thinking through that, right, and talking about 188,000, imagine how many shoes and clothes and the designer bags that I'll have to be able to get 188,000. So what it essentially tells you is that we're putting our money in the wrong places. So when you talk, and that's why when you look through my steps, it's going to get that number up because it's going to focus on things that's going to raise that number. So if I sell it, it'll come back some return. So let's take, for example, what most everybody has, an Apple phone. Well, guess what Apple did in 5 years? Apple returned almost 500%. So if you put your money, $1,000 into Apple, you'll have around maybe $6,000 right now. So it's all about where are we putting our dollars, right? So that when we sell or we're able to utilize that asset, we have enough money that's way more than what we started with. So think about it like that. I get something, I sell it. What is it worth?
Okay. So Kelsey, do you think that was relatable in terms of someone who's never determined or heard of net worth or even how to calculate that? Do you think that was something that they could easily apply to what they have going on, to say, okay, I'm going to look around at my house or my apartment, what do I have that's of value and how much is it?
I think it is because with Black people in our community and finances, it's a cultural thing. Because as Milton shared, our net worth is somewhere equivalent to a Nissan Sentra, really, a basic Nissan Sentra. So what, and not to say that that's funny because, some people do drive a Sentra. I once had a 91 in 2011, but nonetheless, when you think about culturally where we are financially, our mindsets are just different. We were groomed differently. So Black people, I'm Black, we are taught, when you turn 16, you get out, you're on your own. Well, 18, you get out, you get a job, and it's about hustling instead of, here's what to do with your money. So naturally, some of us come from a place of lack. So it's when I get money, if you were a child and you didn't have the Jordans, but everybody else had it, you were picked on for it. So the first thing you think about doing is buying things that people can see. And long money is money that we can't see, that we can't touch because it's tied up into other things. So I think with net worth, it's a foreign concept to say, what can I cash this in for? Because our small pools of money is when you didn't have something, you would pawn something like a TV. You'll pawn something like a gold chain. Nothing that was of major value in the Black home that I can say, oh, this is an asset. We use it as more so of leverage opposed to let me cash in this gold bar that I've had or this coin or this card to get X amount of dollars. We use it as leverage to get by, not to enhance, if that made sense.
Yeah, but I think that's important what you're saying, because most Black folks don't have assets. We have liabilities. Um, and you can't have net worth with a liability. You may think it's an asset, but an asset is something that increases in values or continues to bring in some additional revenue or income based on that initial purchase. And so because we're having the ownership, we're renting apartments, we're leasing townhomes, we're paying a note on a vehicle. So I think if you don't own something, if you don't have a piece of real estate or something that appreciates, you don't have assets. It may be something you like. And people think you got money because you got a Louboutin shoes and you flossing, but you have a negative net worth. Because when I looked at mine, I was like, oh shoot, like, buddy, you out here losing in life, in real life, but people think you're winning because you do this, you do this, you do that, and what looks like success or winning is totally not it.
Right. And I think that is so true for really. And I think that everything that you and Kelsey have both said, we have to start with budgeting. Because if we don't even understand the money that we have and how that works, we can't even begin to talk about, investments or real estate or anything, because we don't even know where our money is. And most of the time we're operating in the red anyway. So I think Milton, because we've all covered in the things that you said, we've covered, talking about the real estate and having the passive income. Those are all a part of his 5 foundational keys. And so I think it has to start with budgeting, because like Kelsey was saying, not even having the money to say, I have a coin. Well, if you don't understand how your paycheck is working, you can't advance to that part. So I think this is where Milton comes in at, to talk about the budgeting. And I think you have a spreadsheet and to break down your monthly dollar or your weekly, however you get paid. So Milton, what do you say to that?
So what I say is I designed a spreadsheet, and what I call it is, let's keep it 100, right? And so what keep it 100 is, people say that to say I'm telling the truth, I'm keeping it real. So what I did from a financial standpoint is said, let's keep it 100. How much of every $100 that you make, how much do you truly keep of it? So for example, $25 an hour, right? So from 8 to 12, they make $100. Keep it 100. How much of that 100 that you made that you actually get to keep? And so from the spreadsheet, the design of it is it'll show you how much of that $100 do you really have? How much are you keeping at 100? And so I just want to give a visual up really quick to kind of walk through that sheet to be able to give you a hypothetical person making $4,000 net a month, net pay. And let's try to understand how much of that person's $100 are they able to keep. And it's just to give you a visual to know, where am I and where should I be? And I love this sheet because you can start having real conversation now. And so let me just throw it up really quick to kind of walk you through what I'm saying.
That's going to be great, because when you talk about where your money is, I was telling either Kendra or Kelsey, I was like, I have spent X amount of dollars and I don't know what I got to show for it. I know it's gone.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing. So to begin with, we don't start the conversations early enough. When people hear budget, they hear restriction, I can't do. But really, the budget is what allows you the freedom to be able to spend your money. It's just telling your money where to go. So people think, oh my God, I got a budget. I can't have this, or I can't go out to eat. You can go out to eat however many times you want if it's money in that budgeted line for you to go out to eat, right? Also, one thing I didn't know graduating as a first generation student, because my family, worked in factory jobs and things like that. So they knew they could make as much money as they wanted to if they taxed their bodies, right? How many hours you want, you can make what you want. You just got to work for it. But when we're talking salary jobs, those numbers, when you're hearing, oh, you can make $60,000 a year, $75,000 a year, how much of that is what you bring home? And then that's what you have to work from. Because Black people hear, oh, I make $75,000 a year, and they divide that by 12 and then think, oh, I'm bringing home this number. When that check show you that growth, you're like, that's, people don't account for that, and how to keep it 100, as Milton would say. How much do you keep out of that? Because Uncle Sam is going to get his first tops off those $100 first. And so I think that is an awesome plan to start from, because knowing where your money is going is very important. But you have to know the true number of what you're starting with, especially for those who are hourly, and their paychecks may change week to week, opposed to someone who's salaried.
Yeah.
I think Milton, you're going to share.
He's pulling that up. I mean, I think, especially to Kelsey's point, I remember when I got my first job, I was making like $32,000. And so now I've been working for about 10 years and my salary has increased substantially. And one day I was like, I'm making more money, but I still got some of the same problems I had at $32,000, right?
Because you had lifestyle inflation, or when you were making that $32,000, you were living outside of your means. You weren't living on a $32,000 budget. Because I remember when I got my first job, I wasn't making nothing, but baby, I was living high on the hog, but I was also living at home. So when I got out, it was a definite, shift of how to manage my money. So that's how I jumped into it really heavy.
Is this Milton on the screen? This cartoon? This you? It's the cartoon Milton. And it's real shit. Okay.
My logo. So let's jump right into it, right? Keep it 100. So what I've done is took a person, and all you have to do in the spreadsheet is enter your net pay. And again, I like what you're talking about, actual money that you brought home, take home pay for the month. You key it at the top, and then you just start typing in your bills and your spending money and things of that nature. So what I did was kind of came up with a hypothetical layout here. And when you think about it, $4,000, look at this person right here. After expenses, all you're able to keep is $1,750 of that $100. So you work from 8 to 12, $25 an hour. You get $100, $1,750. Make another 4 hours, $1,750. That's all so you start to think, why am I even going to work? If all I have is $1,750 of the $100, so what? But it's a lot of opportunity in this sheet. And that's what I want to start talking about, is how can I make this sheet better? And there's one thing you can do really quick, and we could take a quick glance now, let's have some conversation. But the exact same pay, exact same expenses. Let's take a journey to the next sheet. I'm getting $32.50. You know why? Because I just bought a house. Because every time I make a payment and the principal goes against that mortgage, I'm saving. Because if I sell it, remember, net worth, if I sell it, I'm able to get the money back. So out of the $1,400 before I was giving rent, making someone else rich and increasing their net worth, now I'm working on myself. Exact same person, exact same pay. So it's not what you make, it's what you do with what you make.
How about shoes and clothes?
That doesn't count. I believe I have not seen this format before, but I totally would love to dive into it and just apply it to my situation, because I have been down several roads to financial freedom, whether it be by way of Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey, Tiffany the Budget Lista. But what I will say is, now you are a unicorn, Milton, because you don't see many Black men who want to use this road to educate other Black people. So there is money in it. It is a way to help in breaking it down from a cultural aspect, which I think will really, really help millennials and money, because some of us didn't have people to talk about salary negotiations, let alone how to make each dollar work. Because I came up from a family or a time where I know a lot of people who rob Peter to pay Paul. So they would never be able to understand that, wow, I make $70,000, but I'm only keeping $12.50 of my, of every $100. So that is a foreign concept because they've never taken the time to break it down. Or they're living beyond their means by supplementing what they make. If I didn't have that, well, I'll put some of this money in savings and I'm pulling off of that, or they're supplementing with a credit card, or they're using the new form of layaway. And people think that is a thing. That is, people, listen, this is going to put you in debt. Klarna, Afterpay, Affirm, Quad Pay, these are new credit cards. All of this is gentrified layaway, baby. Okay, it means you could not afford it in the beginning. And what will happen is people will say, all right, well, I only got to do it in 4 payments. Well, I'm gonna just make this 1 payment now. And they feel like they've gained the other thirds of that payment to keep. So now you're pushing that off to each month and putting yourself back further in debt, or accruing more bills because you feel like you gain more money by not using all of that money for that one purchase. So I think that this spreadsheet is one to really, really dive into and explain the percentages, because there are so many ways that the man is attacking us by dangling these carrots to say, well, you can have what you want for a lesser price. And I think that's what, got Black people in general, not just Black people, because Black people use credit cards too, and Affirm and Quad Pay, in this conundrum where they're making more money, but they're spending more money, like the lifestyle inflation. And, I can get more with less, but really I end up spending more on the back end, and I don't have anything to show for it other than these out-of-date Louis Vuittons or this out-of-date Louis Vuitton bag.
Right. And I want to talk a little bit about, just to add to what you're saying, I'm big on, after you get this sheet and I start working with you, I'm big on, let's do things that don't cost. Let's do things that doesn't take a promotion. Let's do things that, because, there's a wage war out here. So what I'm trying to say is like let's look at the sheet again. I like to keep it 100. I love this sheet because it keeps the conversation focused. The $1,400, well, I'm not making any more money. Get a roommate. Hey, get married. What happens is that $1,400 turns into $700. And now $700 goes to the top line. I call it the top line. It'll go up here and let me make some savings. Let me do some investing, where it was going into the rent or mortgage, just because I brought someone else in the house. So I'm saying we have to do this thing together. And we have to rethink about, how can I make it work, even given what I have, right? If I can't make more. So it's a lot. Again, I love walking through things like this because there's a ton of opportunity here to change without even an increase in pay.
Right. And so with that, I want to kind of touch on 2 or 3 different areas. And so I'll start with the first one. Even with the spreadsheet, what would you advise someone experiencing Black tax in the form of supporting the family behind them, while also trying to break through, or like you say, breaking down walls? What would you advise them?
For every question a person has, I'll always say the same thing, and it's going to keep coming back to the sheet. You keep it 100. Look at it. I don't have the money to be able to do it, but let's say you have to do it. I want to do it. I understand that. I've been there. I had to pay some of my mom bills. I've been there. I need to make an adjustment somewhere here so I can do that. Maybe I can't live by myself. Maybe I have to get a roommate. Maybe I can't afford that Lexus. Maybe I should get the Corolla, right? So it starts to have real conversation on, I know I have to help back and pull back. So now let's keep it 100 and let me look at what I need to do so I can do that and make those tough decisions. A lot of times we go in the car, oh, I think I can swing it. You can swing it. Let's see if you really can do it. Let's keep it 100 and let's really see if you can do it. And so what this does, this is the foundation to show me what adjustments I can make for the things that I'm trying to do, to help. So Black tax, I got to help mom. Let me see what adjustments I can make so I can help mom.
Right. And I think that's a really good point. I think also the other part of that, you brought up marriage, or what I like to call grouping, because you can have a partnership. It doesn't have to necessarily mean marriage. And I think one of the things that I've talked about is the advancement of the Hispanic community, in such a way that, I remember being a little girl and hearing people around me, almost kind of clown the Hispanic community that was moving in, taking the jobs that, we felt were beneath us. And then, however many, ride in the same car, living in the same house, but they understood the power in grouping and the power of doing what is the necessary. Like Jay-Z said, don't let the necessary occur. Well, it has occurred, and now they have advanced beyond us into having businesses, lawn care, grocery stores, and having built whole communities. And I'm not hating on that. It's a beautiful thing, but we are not doing it. And I think that it is really affecting us. And that's why we're still kind of in the same place, because we're in our own way, essentially. So like, how do we get out of our own way, whether through marriage or grouping, to make sure that we excel into wealth and riches? Because they're two different things, and most people don't even understand that there's two different things.
Well, I would like to first say group economics is a real thing. And history lesson, the Black Panthers and the Nation of Islam was all about group economics. Although I'm not a member of the Nation of Islam, that's what their whole push was. But again, it goes back to the African American thought process of, when you turn 18, you're now miraculously an adult and you have to get out. And you put your child out. They have been under your tutelage for 17 years. You bad with money. And then all of a sudden they turn 18, and now they have been instilled all this wisdom on how to pay rent, how to pay bills, or when a child, if they stay home, oh, now you got to take up a bill, you have to do this, opposed to the Asians and the Chinese folks who will say, you know what, we're going to open up a nail salon, and it's going to be 12 of us living in this mansion, but until Ling and Ming get off their feet, the next person cannot go out. So they kind of promote within their household who goes out first, and all of that money cycles in. Black folks ain't gonna do that. The first thing we want to do, I gotta get mine. It's always about me, opposed to it's about we. And that's what I love about Hispanics and the Asians, how they are able to say, you know what, it's not, they know what delayed gratification is in order to see the end goal. They play the long game. And we once had that until there was a shift in our culture that says, you know what, everybody has to have their own. Where's my 40 acres and a mule? Opposed to, let's just wait. Let's talk about what we're doing wrong, and let's uplift the first family. And then once that family goes out, we bring in another person of the family, and then we promote within like that. So I think the group economics is important. And then also when we say marrying, because marriage is a business, let's not play like it is. I'm married, and we know that a lot of marriages end in divorce because of finances. And you come in thinking, some people come in thinking that before that love is going to save everything. And it's not, because there are going to be crucial conversations that, overshadow the love. And finances is one, especially if you have a spender or a saver, or you got two spenders in place, and things just kind of pop off and happen unnecessarily. People kill for stuff like this. So if not knowing how to have that conversation with your partner is different. And then there are shifts in just depending on the race you date and how that works. But it's a business. It's a business arrangement. Who's going to pay the mortgage? Who's going to pay the light bill? How does this work? And making sure that all of that makes sense. And I've never had a roommate But when some people think that, oh, I'm gonna get a roommate, they think that's extra income to just frivolously spend that money, but to say you're offsetting your costs to be able to do more. So I think those are the conversations that we have to head into, that when you, with grouping, you have to group with purpose, not just to say, I have more money to play with.
So I definitely agree with that. I think, I had a conversation with Milton last night, and one of the things that ties into that, Kelsey, like you were saying, if you have two spenders, and one of the things he said was, he always asks the question to know yourself or know thyself, and having somebody in place to fill in the gap on your financial weaknesses. So I would like you to jump in and talk a little bit more on that, and then we can kind of move into the credit part of the conversation.
And so I think everything you guys are saying is dead on. We have to collectively do this together. You can't, and keeping 100 shows you that. If I had another income here, it would be easier to keep it 100. So I think you're right dead on. We have to be together. We have to join in. And you asked the question, how do we do it? I don't know how we change that in terms of our culture, because it's there. And I really don't have the answer to that. All I'm saying from a financial standpoint is we have to do it if we're going to start moving this needle. We have to have a fundamentally change. If we keep doing what we're doing and do these little offset changes, we're not going to get there, guys. We have to fundamentally change what we do and how we think. And I think that's why I love these 5 steps, because it starts to get you to think different than what we were brought up to kind of think in terms of financial success. This really gets us on track to understand what's really of value.
Okay. So then I think with changing the mindset, I think it's an aspect of wanting to change. And then hopefully, that's the goal of our podcast, is to let people know and get them thinking about the different things that they don't think about on a regular basis, because they're so clouded or jaded by everything else that's directly in front of them. So my hope is that at the end of the night, you go back and you think about this spreadsheet, or you think about, why did I spend my money on this and I know I didn't have this? Is that first thought, we're just planting that seed so that we can move forward. And once we begin to have getting our budget and acknowledging where our money is and how we're spending it, I think then we need to focus on credit. People don't understand how credit is such a freedom that will give you access. Like, we need access. And I once had a friend who told me, his mother's passed away, but he was like, I love my mom, but the dumbest thing she ever told me was that you don't need credit, you just need money. And he was like, and it ruined my life for like 15 years until I woke up, because I really believed that. So then we have a responsibility as parents to make sure that we're not, I think our intentions are always great, but to educate ourselves on the things that we're teaching our children, because it can have effects for decades. And so when we talk about credit, where do you start with someone who hasn't established credit, or they don't have great credit? But we all know credit is the door to buying a home, getting a loan, being able to do a lot of things. Where should they start in terms of credit?
I think I always start in the same place with each of my steps, just like budgeting. Let me see the lay of the land, right? So you have to go get the lay of the land. Credit Karma, go out there and view where you are. What is my score? I'm a 515, I'm a 530, I'm a 650, right? We have to know where you are. And so, but one of the important things I love to do is try to walk you through how to get there. And that's, I had a cousin tell me, that's why I love talking to you, Milton, is because you always give me step by step. So I'm not going to try to go through all the steps, but just a little tips that I think it's important. So with credit, I never really understood how they score, because right, it's all about the score. It's like the SAT test, it's all about the score. So when I started diving down into how they calculate the score, one of the things that I love to talk about first with credit is utilization. I did not know what utilization was. And so let's talk about that for a little bit. So utilization essentially is I give you credit card, these type of loans, and essentially what the score wants to know is how much of it are you using, right? So if I get $1,000, if you have $800 on it, that's a 80% utilization. You will get murdered on your credit score for that. So, Milton, what's the question? What should the utilization be? To get the perfect score out of utilization, 9%. 9%. So think through that for a minute. You got that $1,000 credit card, you ready to go. You only can spend $90 on it, or you're damaging your credit score. So my thought process was, initially at Shaw University, was $1,000. Hey, $999. Let's go. So, but what essentially I did is put 99% utilization on there, and my score went to crap. So understanding how the score is designed is the first step, and that's just one of the things. You got length and credit and payment history. You have all these things that you go out and have to get charged for, and telling somebody saying, I'm gonna make your credit better. No, they're not. They're gonna go to that score and they're gonna start telling you to do stuff that up the score. So I'm saying I have that sauce, so we can, as we keep it 100, we can start working on utilization, getting it down to that 9%, and watch that score go up. And so one of the things I always say is every month you should look at it. I don't care if you had a bad month, you ran up the cards, you need to look. Because what you want to do is say, I had a bad month, and what did I affect on my score? I had a 20-point. That was a 20-point drop. That was a 30-point drop. So I'm like, okay, I know if I do that, that's a 30-point drop. Understand how it works so you can maneuver. And then and then it's about setting goals, right? So we talk about real estate in the next step. To get a FHA loan, you need a 580. Now, you probably want a better score than 580, but that'll get you in the door. So knowing what I need to get, now I have a goal. And then let's start working toward it to see how we can get to that 580.
I would, love to just backtrack to your credit score piece in regards to knowing, some people believe that if I don't talk about it, it didn't happen. So if you had a bad month, like you said, go back and review those scores, because now there are people who believe that cash is king. In some waves of time, it is. Right now, cash is not king because it costs so little to get money right now. They're giving money to any and everybody at this moment. So right now, what's setting people apart, myself just now dipping into the real estate game, it's about my credit score, because they're saying, oh, the interest rates are so low. The interest rates are so low. Yeah, I had cash in the bank, but had it not been for my credit score, I would not have gotten the best rate if it wasn't for that score. So yeah, you can have all the cash in the world, but if your interest rate is 8% or higher to get a house, you're pretty much getting beat. You're getting beat. So those are the things that you have to pay attention to. And I also took a couple of classes, where Dave Ramsey, his thing is, you don't need credit. Credit is bad. But if you don't have that money right now, what are you gonna do?
And so, Kelsey, this is what I believe. I believe the saying "cash is king" came from poor people. And the reason why I said that, because cash is only king if you actually have the resource. And people who actually have the resources do not use their cash. They leverage their credit. That's what they do. So, like, when has cash ever been king for us? We don't have it.
Well, cash. So I don't believe cash is king, because I like to hold on to my cash. So in my marriage, I am the saver. I will pinch a penny so tight I can squeeze a booger out of Abraham Lincoln's nose, because I'm gonna hold on to it. But that I know I'm loosening that grip in the mindset, because I know that trauma and how I handle money came out of a space of lack. I'm not gonna be without. You ain't gonna catch me slipping. When the stock market crash, I got about $50,000 tucked away because we're gonna be okay. That type of lack. But what I didn't realize is I ended up going to a business seminar at school, and they were telling me about the points of credit that were added on. Now, thank God my mama wasn't, that mama who wanted a new TV, so she financed it with errands in my name. She did not do that. Thank you, Jesus. But my mother was deathly afraid of credit cards. Like, no, it's the scheme. And my dad was like, no, if you use it the right way, you'll be okay. But he didn't understand that the utilization. He thought that, all right, if you put it on there and you pay some of it off, you'll be okay. But I was always wondering, like, why is my credit score not going up? Why is my credit score not going up? And I took this class, and it talked about the specific points that if I miss a payment, all right, that's 15. It's like starting at 100, and every indiscretion I have is a negative amount of points. So I live out of the motto now with my credit card, I gotta pay them people. I asked them for it, I gotta pay them back, because I want my credit score to be at the top. I want access to certain things, and not just, don't use Credit Karma just as one point. Go to different ones. You get a free credit report every year. Go in and see what's pulling, because even though you may have on your credit report, there are certain companies that if you do good with Discover, Visa want to know what's going on too, so they might do a soft pull. So you get one of those for free every year. Go to Nerd Wallet to see what's going to be your APR rate. Like, what are going to be, what are the perks? Because with credit cards come perks. So what you can't do is get a credit card that doesn't work for you. So learning how they work, because you don't want to buy into, let's say, a Delta credit card where they say, oh, you get all these frequent flyer miles and you're racking up these miles and you ain't never flew nowhere. Those perks don't work for you. But if you go to Starbucks all the time and you get 5% cash back, as long as you're paying it back, you're paying yourself with those perks. So make sure that you use your credit card to leverage your access. I think if you know your weaknesses, if you know you like to shop a lot, Nerd Wallet will actually do the work for you. You put your information in, what you want your APR rate to be. What are the kickbacks do I get for using this credit card, and being responsible about it, that they'll give you perks that you can use. So I don't believe cash is king now that I have seen the light in credit cards and how to use it and how that's working for me. And I love getting the notifications that, Kelsey, check your scores. You're doing good, girl. You have a 200-day payment streak of paying on time or paying stuff off. And I always operate out of the mindset, like Milton said, with the utilization. Got that $1,000, $999 to go. I know if in February I spent $50 on my credit card, when I pay my bill before the cycle hits, so I don't owe the people for the money I borrowed. So you want to make sure I don't owe you anything for the money I asked you for. So, and then I try to pay it off, because then they're like, oh snap, she borrowed money, but she didn't have to pay me extra. It's almost like corporate loan sharks, so to say. if you borrow the money, I know you borrowed $1,000, but whatever your interest rate may be, you may owe me an additional $40 on top of the $1,000. So I want to try to beat them at their game of knowing, if I don't pay on time, I'm going to lose 15 points. If I don't pay on time, I'm going to owe them $40 extra on the $30 I may have spent. So essentially I've spent $75, but I only use, 30, 40. So just trying to figure out the system and how they calculate these things. And like Milton said, learning the lay of the land, turn your paper over when you get that bill. Don't just throw it away, and read and see what's happening and how they're using your money that they loan you, essentially.
So Kelsey, I wanna go back to something you said, because it's almost like mirrored trauma. And so it's this thing that Milton beats me about all the time. That's about saving my money. And so my family has this joke that I'm the cash queen because I hold on to cash. Milton despises savings. Now I am only saying this if you're in the position to actually do it, because some people, even just starting with budgeting, you don't have the additional income, or you haven't found the hole to even begin to even think about saving or investing. But for those who are in position or they have the extra resources, because Kelsey was like, it came from, trauma of lack, and that's where mine came from. But I am half and half. I do also invest my money, but I do save a lot of my money. And so, Milton, if you can jump in on that, and I'm like tears right now. I don't want to even ask him to talk about it because it's trauma for me.
So I hate savings accounts. Savings accounts. Savings accounts, and I don't want to offend anybody here, but savings accounts for poor people. Poor people save. And I'm going to give you a story on my life to show you savings accounts are horrible. Here's the story. 1995, I graduated from Polk County High School. And they give you a little yearbook. And in the yearbook, you write down, it's a part of our yearbook, where you could write down the cost of different items at the time you graduated. So I don't know, I guess I was running around doing a lot of working. So I wrote down gasoline. And gasoline at that time was $1.01. So at graduation, I got about maybe $400, right? So let's say I took $100, keep it 100. I took $100 and I bought a gallon of gas. I could buy 100 gallons of gas, pretty much, right? At $1.01. So stay with me here in the story. So in a savings account, because that's the objective, I'm going to buy 100 gallons of gas. So in 1995, Dumb Milton goes into my savings account and I put it in the savings. Smart Milton is beside him and he goes and puts it in the S&P 500. And anybody that doesn't know what the S&P 500 is, all it is 500 stocks of the best companies in America. And you invest in those 500. All you got to do is pay into it and you're into the 500. So Smart Milton puts the same 100 in the S&P 500. Let's fast forward to this podcast. I go to Dumb Milton. Let's go to the savings account. It's $129 now because of the interest rate that they give you for savings accounts. Remember my goal, 100 gallons of gas. Now I take the 129 because I made money, right? I'm saving, I made money. I take the $129 and I go to Durham gas station. I get 49 gallons of gas. In 95, I could get 100. But today in my savings account, 49 gallons of gas. Now, Smart Milton, S&P 500, haven't touched it, haven't added to it. It's $1,259 today. I didn't add to it. I didn't do anything to it. How many gallons of gas can I buy? You're talking maybe 300-400 gallons. That's why savings is for poor people. Because what I could buy in 95, I can't even buy today with the same money. Savings, poor people. Don't put money in the savings. Open a checking account. And that's step 4, invest. As you see, none of the steps say save. Do not say we're not gonna get there saving. You're gonna get 49 gallons of gas, you start saving. When you
okay, I gotta interject. We gotta walk this through, baby. This is 180 degrees different than what most people hear. Save your money, right? But we also know it's coming from a generation of people who experience different things than what we're currently experiencing. And so I just started saving, right? It barely used to be money in my checking account unless it was payday. By the end of the week after paying bills, I'm like, all right, pay bills. Let me do something for me, right? So the money is stuff for the checking account. We're going to eat. We're going to buy some clothes. We're going to take a trip. We're going to do whatever. And so there was never really money in my savings account until recently. But now the money is there. And now Milton is telling me that I'm poor because I'm saving my money. But I actually feel like I'm rich because I got money in a bank that I didn't used to have. If something happened, if I need to get something with my car done, I had to figure out if I was going to swipe it or what was I going to do. And so I feel safe. There's a security blanket that there is money in the bank if I need it, that I can have access to it. So how do you help us who are just now getting into the savings? Because all we hear about finances is not what you're telling us, and from big names, right? So how do you get us to shift our mindset and really identify bad information? Because there's lots of different sources of finances of folks who are telling us these things. So how do I trust your savings for poor people? Because I felt poor when I didn't have savings. Hey family, thanks for listening to this episode of the Last of the Millennials, We Probably Right podcast, where we talked about financial wellness, and we just stopped talking about why savings accounts are for poor people on episode 10. Check us out on episode 12 for the continuation of this episode. You do not want to miss it. Share this with your friends and family so that they can continue to get their financial state in order. And follow us on all social media platforms at weprobablyright.com. Join our private Facebook group and also follow us on YouTube. Until next time, we probably right.